Empire Tales. Commodus, the Gladiator Emperor. Imagine the greatest empire the world has ever known, at the absolute peak of its power, ruled by a man known as the philosopher king, Marcus Aurelius. Peace reigned, the borders were secure, and justice was the law of the land. But then, the crown passed to his son, a young man who cared nothing for philosophy and everything for blood, fame, and the roar of the crowd. He didn't want to lead his people. He wanted to be worshipped as a god hero. This is the story of Commodus, the emperor who traded his royal robes for the lion skin of Hercules and stepped into the arena to fight as a gladiator, dragging the Roman Empire into a spiral of decadence and ruin. Part 1. The Prince Born in Purple. The tragedy of Commodus begins with his birth in the year 161 AD. Unlike almost all the good emperors before him who were adopted based on merit, Commodus was born in the purple, the biological son of Marcus Aurelius. He was groomed from birth to rule, receiving the finest education and being named co-emperor at the young age of 15. But beneath the surface of royal tutoring, a dark nature was brewing. While his father spent his nights writing the Meditations, a book on Stoic self-discipline and duty, Commodus spent his time indulging in the luxuries of the court. When Marcus Aurelius died on the Germanic frontier in 180 AD, the soldiers cheered for the young, handsome Commodus. They thought they were seeing the dawn of a new era. They were right, but it was an era of darkness. His first act was to abandon his father's hard-won military campaigns, signing a hasty peace treaty just so he could return to the pleasures of Rome. Part 2. The Paranoia of a Tyrant. Commodus arrived in Rome to a hero's welcome, but the honeymoon phase was short-lived. In the year 182, a conspiracy to assassinate him was led by his own sister, Lucilla. As the assassin stepped from the shadows of the theater, he shouted, "The Senate sends you this," instead of just striking. The guards tackled him, the plot failed, and Lucilla was exiled and executed. This event shattered whatever sanity Commodus had left. He became consumed by a paralyzing paranoia. He saw enemies in every shadow and traitors in every senator. He began to purge the Roman elite, executing anyone who showed too much talent or popularity. He retreated from the daily business of governing, leaving the empire in the hands of corrupt favorites like Prinus and later the freedman Cleander, who sold government offices like fruit in a market. While the people starved and the plague ravaged the city, Commodus retreated into his private world of violence and excess. Part 3. The New Hercules. As his grip on reality slipped, Commodus began to believe that he was not a mere mortal, but the reincarnation of the Greek hero Hercules. He ordered statues of himself to be carved throughout the empire, depicting him with a massive club and wearing the skin of the Nemean lion. He even renamed the months of the year after his own long list of titles and renamed Rome itself Colonia Commodiana. But his obsession went further than just statues. He wanted the people to see his divine strength in person. He began to enter the arena, not as a spectator, but as a performer. To the Roman senators, this was the ultimate disgrace. In the Roman social order, gladiators were infamous, legal outcasts, the lowest of the low. For an emperor to step into the sand was like a god crawling into the mud. Part 4. Blood in the Arena. Commodus spared no expense for his performances. He would spend entire days in the Colosseum, slaughtering hundreds of exotic animals with specialized arrows and spears from a safe, raised platform. He once killed 100 lions in a single morning without missing a shot. He even decapitated an ostrich with a crescent-headed arrow while it was running at full speed, then walked toward the seating area where the senators sat, brandishing the bloody head and his sword in a silent, terrifying threat. But he also fought as a gladiator in hand-to-hand combat. He boasted of having won over 1,000 matches. Of course, these fights were rigged. No opponent dared to actually harm the emperor. They would submit to him, and he would mercifully allow them to live, though it was said he practiced his killing strokes on the wounded and the disabled in private. He charged the city of Rome astronomical fees for each of his appearances, draining the already bankrupt treasury to fund his ego. The emperor had become a circus act, and the Roman people watched in a mix of awe and absolute horror. Part 5. The final plot, the death of a gladiator. By the year 192, the inner circle of the palace knew that Commodus had become too dangerous to live. He had planned to appear on New Year's Day, not as an emperor in a toga, but as a gladiator emerging from the barracks to take the consulship. This was the final straw. His mistress, Marcia, his chamberlain, and the head of the Praetorian Guard formed a plan. First, Marcia tried to poison his wine after he returned from a long day of hunting animals in the arena. Commodus drank the wine, but he became sick and vomited the poison out. Fearing that he would wake up and execute them all, the conspirators sent in his wrestling partner and fitness coach, a man named Narcissus. As the emperor lay in a drunken, poisoned stupor in his bath, Narcissus grabbed him by the throat and strangled him to death. The living god was ended by a common wrestler in a bathroom. Part 6. The fall of an empire. The death of Commodus was met with silent relief by the people and active joy by the Senate. They immediately ordered a damnatio memoriae, the damnation of memory. His statues were toppled, his name was erased from public buildings, and his body was buried in secret. But the damage was already done. Commodus had ended the Pax Romana, the long period of Roman peace. His death triggered a violent civil war known as the Year of the Five Emperors, and the empire would never truly recover its former stability or glory. The historian Cassius Dio famously wrote that with the death of Marcus Aurelius and the rise of Commodus, the Roman Empire descended from a kingdom of gold to one of iron and rust. Legacy, the false hero. Commodus remains a haunting figure in history, the spoiled heir who chose fame over duty and blood over wisdom. He is the ultimate example of how absolute power can warp a human mind into something unrecognizable. He wanted to be remembered as a god of the arena, but history remembers him as the man who played while an empire began to burn. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the life of the Gladiator Emperor. If you are fascinated by the dark side of power and the twists of ancient history, please subscribe to Empire Tales, like this video, and join our community. The past is never truly dead. It is just waiting to be told.